So thanks everybody for joining. We're really happy to be talking about solar carports and EV charging. So this is a webinar hosted by Oya Renewables, and Abdullah here is going to tell you just a little bit more about it later on. Essentially, what we're going to talk about today is how you can create value from implementing solar carports and EV charging on your property. This is a topic that we're all very excited, so I'm just not going to talk too much so we can get started on this. And I'm going to turn it over first to Abdullah, who's going to talk a little bit more about himself.
Thanks, Janet. Thanks, Janet, and thanks everybody for joining today. As the Director of New Ventures at Oya, I lead the development and execution of new business opportunities, especially as they pertain to turnkey energy transition solutions. Examples of turnkey energy transition solutions include transportation electrification, integration with microgrid solutions, and on-site renewables. We provide these solutions to our clients in order to help them achieve their sustainability targets. More specifically, I've been involved in the e-mobility industry for several years now, overseeing the rollout of statewide public charging infrastructure, as well as development of B2C and B2B EV charging products and services.
Thanks, Abdullah. Jonathan, why don't you take a stab at introducing yourself?
Sure, great. Happy to be here today. Excuse me. My name is Jonathan Mizraki. I'm the Director of Sales at Polar Racking. Polar Racking, we design, engineer, and manufacture racking systems for the solar space. One of our product lines here today we'll be speaking about is, of course, the carports. I've been in the solar industry since 2008, so considered a industry veteran in an emerging market, which is great. Kind of been through all different parts of the value chain, from development to distribution, manufacturing, and even installation. So kind of have that wide breadth of knowledge, and just very excited to be here with Abdullah from Oya Renewables, speaking about this hot topic with EV charging and canopies on properties in the field.
Okay, so we have a full program here. So first we're going to define for you what is energy as a service platform. And I'm not going to speak too much about it because I'm not the expert here. And then we're going to talk about how you can integrate the two technologies together. And then really we want to talk about optimizing your solar carports for your space, because there are certain considerations you need to take in mind. And then we'll also talk about battery storage, which is up and coming clean technology. And then we're going to get into the meat of implementing EV charging and solar carports and other on-site solar opportunities we might touch on just a little bit. And then we're going to talk about the financing of it. And I'm just going to add a little bit more. We're really going to get into the process of everything that you need to know from start to finish of how to get that started. So again, not going to speak too much about this, but and I'm going to turn it over to Abdullah, who is our expert here.
Thanks, Janet. Wanted to start off with a quick overview on Oya and our capabilities as a vertically integrated energy infrastructure developer and operator of such infrastructure. Since 2009, we've become one of the top 10 developers in the US community solar market. In the state of New York, we're the second largest developer. And since 2009, we've completed over 1.4 gigawatts of projects across North America. We are really able to leverage our development, our engineering, asset management expertise, as well as the broader strategic relationships that we've developed with suppliers as well as clients within the energy industry to provide innovative and cost-effective turnkey solutions. These extend beyond solar development and are able to really holistically address our clients that are businesses, municipalities, and others of the like, in order for them to achieve their energy transition goals.
So a little bit about Polar Racking. Polar Racking was started in 2009. We have over 3 gigawatts worth of experience, meaning racking systems deployed in the field. Of our diversified portfolio, we have 3 main product lines, and those are Solar Carports, which we'll be speaking a little bit more about today, fixed tilt ground mount, as well as our newly acquired single axis tracker called Axis. So of course, Polar Racking, we design, engineer, and manufacture racking systems for the solar market. Our goal is to deliver the highest quality products. Everything is turnkey, meaning we handle it all from that product design side to actually delivery in the field. We also have some support tools. We also have some support services, I should say, for installation and other technical services for our development partners, such as Oya Renewables. Located throughout North America, our home base is in Toronto. Myself, I'm located in New York. And that's a little bit about Polar.
Great, thanks, Jonathan. So many medium and large size businesses have operations across multiple jurisdictions, and they're looking for replicable and streamlined energy transition solutions across their entire portfolio that may span across multiple jurisdictions. Oya Renewables and Polar Racking each individually have developed energy infrastructure all over North America. We've developed technical capability, supplier relationships, and other strategic relationships across a vast landscape. This gives us the experience and the knowledge to work across different jurisdictions. For example, different utility companies that are a key stakeholder when it comes to electrification projects. We're able to take these complex capabilities, for example, that are required to develop large-scale solar projects, and we're able to scale them down to deliver projects of varying sizes. So for example, EV charging that may be simpler, we're able to scale these capabilities down and really deliver high quality and integrated solutions all across North America. Next slide. So over the recent years, climate change awareness, the impact of inflation, awareness around technology innovation has led to a significant ramp up in net zero commitments from businesses. More than 50% of the Fortune 500 companies have pledged to shrink their greenhouse gas emissions. This is largely coming from electricity and transportation sectors in the US having contributed majorly towards the overall GHG emissions. So as a result, a lot of these companies that are pledging to reduce GHG emissions have also resulted in government support and government funding that is able to implement such energy transition and decarbonization initiatives more easily by way of financial support, incentives or grant programs. As a result of these supportive policies and government funding, there is a major uptick in adoption of renewable generation, electric vehicle charging infrastructure, as well as battery storage in the recent years. And at Oya, we really focused on developing an execution platform that helps us deliver these technologies in order to help our clients meet their energy transition needs. Next slide. So we all know that there is a major energy transition momentum among the business and the public sector, but perhaps we can discuss some of the challenges that businesses face when achieving their decarbonization goals. To start off, the existing electricity infrastructure poses constraints that require significant capital investment in order to sustain large-scale EV adoption. Incorporation of distributed energy resources like solar canopies, on-site solar rooftop, as well as battery storage can help mitigate such cost prohibitive upgrades to the electricity grid. As a result, these projects do become really complex, requiring businesses in order to requiring businesses to contract with multiple service providers for just one project, because they end up generally dividing their project into multiple work packages. So this ends up being really resource intensive, as well as overwhelming for businesses, especially that are not familiar with energy infrastructure. The upfront costs of energy infrastructure projects is typically very high, and most businesses are not able to make the necessary accommodations in order to realize such projects. And then the upfront costs as a result of growing electricity prices is also impacting economics of projects such as transportation electrification. And lastly, because these projects interact on a day-to-day basis with core business operations, reliability and resiliency is key for seamless and successful operations. And lack of reliable energy infrastructure out there today when it comes to EV charging does pose a barrier to implementation of such projects. So as a result of all these key challenges that we just discussed, we're seeing that there's a significant demand for tailored and full service clean technology solutions. And that's what we're focusing on through our energy transition platform. Next slide, Janet. So it's interesting and at the same point, not really surprising to see that most businesses, when they're deploying, let's say, EV charging infrastructure, have recognized that other distributed energy resources like on-site renewables and microgrid infrastructure is going to help reduce energy consumption. So we've built a holistic platform that focuses on deploying integrated solar, battery storage, EV charging, all as a single project or under a single platform, while reducing upfront capital investments and ongoing energy costs. Our technology offerings include rooftop solar, solar canopies, community solar subscriptions, battery storage, as well as fast and slow level 2 EV chargers, and geothermal in order to target decarbonization around HVAC systems. It's important to notice that we are able to tailor the solutions for our client needs. So some clients may require all of the technologies that I just spoke to. Other clients may only require one or some of the technologies. So we're able to break up the different technologies and are also able to individually deliver each technology depending on the project needs. Next slide, Janet. We work with different types of clients. They could range from municipalities to corporate and industrial customers, retail brands, real estate investment trusts. On your screen, you can see an example of our practical solution at a supermarket parking lot. So here we installed two types of EV chargers, level 2 chargers that are typically for longer dwell times, so 2 to 4 hour long charging sessions, as well as fast chargers to meet the needs of those that are looking for a quicker charge, let's say 10 to 30 minutes. We've paired these EV chargers and integrated this infrastructure with the solar canopy to take the benefits of on-site renewable generation while enhancing the user experience of EV drivers. Canopies allow for additional lighting, mitigating safety concerns for EV drivers when they're charging late at night, weatherproofing, and other things that Jonathan will just talk about. And then in the back, you see battery storage cabinets. These provide backup power when there's an outage. And really, they help reduce reliance on diesel generators that are not clean assets. And then they're also able to reduce ongoing energy costs. With that, I'll turn it over to Jonathan and where he can speak more about the solution.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Abdullah. Yeah, I really love this picture. We're talking about it a little bit yesterday. I think it's, one of those examples where, a picture tells 1,000 words, right? Solar canopies, aligned with EV charging, battery storage, things like that, just allow for a lot of opportunity for building owners or property owners to recognize revenue on, an unrecognizable portion of their property, right? So we're taking a parking lot that provides a service to the property, and now allowing that, property to now produce a revenue. And I think that's really the biggest excitement I think that I have being in this carport and canopy space, is just that. Abdullah touched on it a little bit, where this will provide some shelter to the cars. So we see this in a lot of different situations where, if we're in the north, obviously there's rain and snow. So you could see where, the cars would be covered from that rain or snow. Similarly, in the South or Midwest or Southern Midwest, you have heat as well. So provide some shading to the cars so that when your customers or residents or whoever it may be come to their cars, it's not extremely hot. One of the big things we see currently in the Midwest is a lot of car dealerships actually looking to solar canopies to protect their inventory. A lot of hailstorms in the southern Midwest, and their insurance costs have increased significantly. So there's besides the green and renewable savings, there's also a savings on that insurance-based cost to, protecting the assets being the vehicles underneath the canopies as well. So many interesting ways to look at this. And I think there's benefits kind of across the board here when we're looking at canopies, EV charging, and then, battery storage and other such technologies that are all aligned together. So I'll tell you a little bit more about our product solution. We call it the Shield. And basically that's for our carport and canopies. So basically we are using the space available, again, on a parking lot that doesn't produce revenue. Right now, your potential income or net operating income of your property will be increased because you have a potential for earnings from both the solar of the carport, any EV charging capabilities, and then of course with batteries as well. There's something called peak demand shaving, which I'm sure Abdullah will get into as well. Our solutions are very customizable. There are no two parking lots that are the same. So they're all customizable in the fact that, we need to actually see what's there in the parking lot, where are the parking lot lines, that sort of thing. We also want to minimize the space or the intrusive space of our canopies. So meaning, we're going to have columns that, get drilled into the ground. We don't want to intrude on any, parking lot spaces or anything like that. All in-house engineering. We have 15 engineers on staff in-house that, work on our product solutions, which include the carports, ground mounts, and single axis tracker. So very familiar with these products and solutions, optimizing design to fit the client's needs. And then, of course, a big question we get is, how's your supply chain? Post-COVID supply chain in many different industries has been kind of crazy. From our point of receiving an order, let's say, we're 12 to 14 weeks to delivery on site. And then, of course, we have a construction timeline thereafter. So it's important to note that, plan for it, and understand the full project cycle and timeline from, start of, perhaps looking at or proposing a project with Abdullah and his team to, finalization of the project, meaning, product is installed, everything's up and ready, and close out of permits and interconnections. Next slide. So I'll show a few different configurations of our carports. First that we see here on the left side is our L structures. So they look and sound exactly as they are. So it's made for single space parking, where you have cars coming in on one side but no cars on the other. This is usually our most inefficient product line for parking, just because you have the columns and supports there with less modules being applied. The next is our T-shaped structures, which you see on the right side. This is our most common and probably our most efficient use of steel and material here. Typically, you'll see 6 solar panels in portrait on this racking. So it will be your most efficient, most common space here in a, just an open parking lot on the ground. Next slide. So along with the T shape here on the left, we have a Y-shaped structure. You'll see these on, parking lots where the rows of parking are running north to south. So typically in solar, we want to position our panels to the south. East and west are also very good. So in this scenario, we're positioning the panels both east and west. This also allows for an interesting water management solution, where the water management would funnel towards the center where the columns are located. Same thing with any type of snow or something like that. Would be centered towards, directed towards the center columns. And so, you could very easily water manage this type of solution as well. On the right side, we have our pie-shaped structures. We see these a lot where we're trying to increase the capacity, increase the modules. Maybe there's a curb like you see there in the picture, with some open space between the parking lot rows. So just another way of positioning our canopies, providing more power density. We've also seen these on some school districts where there's a walkway to get into the school, and so the children will walk beneath the canopy to get into school, and it's a nice overhead covered space for them to take that walk. Next slide. And so lastly, we have these long span configurations. Basically, these are spanning multiple rows of parking. And so that's where they come up with that long span name. Usually you'll see these on top of parking decks as well. So, if you see a parking deck where there's multiple floors and then the top is covered with solar, that would be this type of long span configuration. Again, maximum power density on this as far as mounting of solar panels. And then you will see it's a very efficient way of mounting panels, because you do get that more density per pound of steel, let's say, as well. So some key product components here. Every site and structure, like we mentioned earlier, will be designed to your specific needs. So we're going to look at the soil, we're going to look at the wind ratings, snow loads, things like that. And that's how we produce and come up with the right design, member sizing, thicknesses, essentially to meet your local jurisdictional codes and safety requirements. Again, everything is in-house engineering for your customized solution. We provide corrosion-resistant materials such as G90 steel at a base level, and we have higher levels of galvanization, as well as the hardware could be either coated or stainless steel and so forth. So if you're, nearby a coastal environment, you may have some saltwater mist in the air or something like that. You may want to look at higher galvanization, and we could help guide you along that process. Everything is integrated bonding in our hardware. So fully grounded structure, of course, again, per electrical code requirements. So some design considerations that we take into account when designing these systems, these carport and canopy systems. So foundation spacing is a big one. Of course, we do want to land in between the spaces on the parking lot lines. We don't want to intrude on the parking lot spaces. So that's something that we look at probably first and foremost on any carport canopy racking system, how to be less intrusive within the parking lot and create as much space as possible as well. We've seen sites where, trucks do pass underneath, heavy equipment could pass underneath, and, maybe a manufacturing type of facility or emergency facility such as a, school or hospital or something like that. Tilt angles, we have 0 to 7 degree tilt. So not much of a tilt, considering, and that's just to allow for wind and snow load. You want to tilt, again, like I mentioned earlier, towards the sun's path and direction. Usually it's about it's a southerly tilt that we're looking for. And with our design criteria and guidelines, we advise for 0 to 7 degrees. Of course, we want full access to the sun. So we always say, be mindful of any trees or other buildings that may be in the area. You want to keep these carport canopies and any solar, for that matter, clear of any obstructions or shade that might hinder its production. Site-specific geotechnical and topographic considerations. So, of course, we want to see what kind of soil conditions are in the ground, right? Is there looser soils, corrosive soils, maybe it's stiffer type of soil, there's rock considered. So that all that information pulled together tells us, what type of foundation to put into the ground and how to anchor the system exactly. Structure height, again, considering any trucks or, if it's a fire or emergency lane, you want vehicles to pass underneath. Another one is for snow plows. If snow plows are going to pass underneath and clear snow from the parking lot. So that's always taken into consideration. Usually it's about 13.5 to 14 feet on the leading edge. We have done systems that are lower than that, lower leading edge. But that's something that you would need to look at and advise as far as, what type of vehicles pass underneath the system. And then, again, other uses for these structures, we've seen them used in, parks and other applications like that, where, people may pass underneath and just provides shelter or, a nice picnic area or something like that. And then further to optimization and customization, again, we spoke about a little bit about galvanization. We also offer powder coating and metal painting. So, you can sort of brand the racking and the steel to your company's, colors or logos. That's something that we've done before, and it comes out really cool. Watertight structures, so there is rubber gasketing or roof decking we can provide to make these structures watertight. Again, they are open air structures, so you always have that wind and driven rain kind of idea, but we can provide watertight, so there's no dripping below the structure itself. Water management is basically gutters and downspouts. How do we want to direct the water once the watertight structure is in place? So that's something that also comes up. Snow guards, of course, very important. We don't want snow crashing on top of vehicles or, God forbid, any people walking underneath. So we do provide snow guards for these systems as well to help slow down the snow and will prevent that from sliding off. And then directly integrating lighting and EV charging, to Abdullah's presentation today, EV charging, we're seeing this more and more often on our carport canopies. And then it's a great area for us to implement some lighting and give it a bright space at night.
Thanks, Jonathan, for the overview on solar canopies. So let's take a deeper dive into our EV charging product and our service engineer. We found ways to structure the solution so that it can be tailored to meet the preferences of different use cases and different clients. So, whether you are a municipality that wants to offer EV charging for fleet and workplaces, or you're a dealership looking to provide EV chargers to drivers as well as meet the requirements of your service bay, our EV charging solutions could be tailored in order to get the maximum use out of it. So for example, you're a municipality that wants to locate EV chargers to charge fleet vehicles, but don't want to charge a price for it. And while the general public can use it on a pay-per-use basis, and employees can use these at a discounted price. We're actually able to deliver all of these three requirements by issuing access cards that are specific to each use case, but then also setting preferences on our network platform so that this can happen more seamlessly and you're able to get the best use out of these three different uses of your EV chargers. More importantly, the way that our solutions are designed are not only from the considerations of a site operator, but also EV drivers. So our team has experience in understanding what it takes to provide the best user experience to our EV drivers, be it payment methods, features of a mobile app, etc. And we make it a priority to deliver a cutting edge solutions to our clients. Next slide, please. In terms of hardware, we're technology agnostic. We leverage our experience of building and operating EV charging networks to implement a detailed vetting process. And that's how we've selected our technology partners. How this approach typically benefits us and our clients is that we're really flexible in the way that we offer our EV charging solutions. So, whether it's a client that is limited on budget, or they're looking for a specific charging speed, or looking to meet the needs of specific fleet vehicle frequency, we are able to select the best and most reliable charging hardware for that particular situation, and are able to build that into a tailored solution. So when it comes to level 2 charging, we've got options from 7 kilowatts all the way up to the typical 11 kilowatts. And when it comes to DC charging, we've got options all the way from 25 kilowatts that are typically located in a wall mount configuration, all the way up to 350 kilowatts, in order to meet the needs of super vehicles these days today that require that fast level of charging. Next slide, please. When it comes to our turnkey element of EV charging, we've framed it as such so that businesses don't need to develop their own software when it comes to network dashboard in the back end, or mobile apps or call centers, because we do realize that that these are relatively larger undertakings for each individual business and client, and also they hinder the EV charging experience if one driver is traveling across different jurisdictions. So our client, as well as our driver services engine, is able to provide a network dashboard that provides clients with information on utilization rates, information on sustainability metrics that might be required in order to report on your ESG progress, as well as monitor revenue streams if you're using your EV charging station to generate revenue. EV drivers can download our intuitive mobile application from their Android and Apple phones. The mobile app is going to be useful when identifying EV charging sites, activating charging sessions, and also paying for those charging sessions. And then when it comes to driver support, we realize that customer service and user experience is key to maintaining that EV driver customer base. So we have a North America-based 24/7 call center, and we're able to handle all settlements and billing processes directly with EV drivers in tandem with any regulatory policies that are applicable in order to handle these payment information for clients. Next slide, please. So jumping to battery storage and how that is useful for EV charging stations. As EVs advance higher power charging rates these days, most of the EVs that are coming, their charging power varies anywhere from between 150 kilowatts all the way up to 350 kilowatts. Energy storage plays a growing role in balancing the load of the charger when it comes to either a charging hub that has multiple EV charging stations or a few EV charging stations, but those that are very high power. We're able to procure batteries, implement, and also operate them effectively in order to optimize energy costs and provide resiliency to the site. Next slide, please. So what do we exactly mean by a turnkey solution? We handle everything when it comes to the project lifecycle of energy transition projects so that our clients are only dealing with one service provider, that is Oya. So this allows clients to focus on their core business. And the entire process is much more streamlined. So everything from the initial site walkdowns to acquiring government funding and incentives that are associated with these projects to equipment procurement, on-site development, construction, as well as operations and maintenance is a part of what we do on an everyday basis through our turnkey solutions. And most importantly, we're able to combine these with financing. Next slide, please. We tailor our business models to meet the preferences of our clients. As an example, we're able to offer energy as a service model, so there are no upfront costs, which I know is interesting to some clients. For example, a fixed annual payment under a lease provides certainty when it comes to budgetary approvals, as well as the ability to incorporate EV charging solutions at zero upfront cost. You can essentially execute these long-term energy transition projects under your operational budget as opposed to your capital budget. For clients that do have capital that is available, we're also able to offer a traditional development and sale model where we would leverage our development capabilities to deliver a high quality energy infrastructure project and turn the keys over to you as a client so that you can own that infrastructure. And then on an ongoing basis, we would provide operations and maintenance services. At the end of the day, we do work with our clients in order to see what's the best model from a commercial perspective that meets their financial objectives. Next slide, please. So if you're a client looking for an energy transition solution, you'd approach us and we would start off with defining what that project would look like. So essentially understanding your needs, undertaking technical feasibility analyses on your site, recommending a technology suite. So, whether it's EV charging on its own, or whether it's EV charging integrated with the broader microgrid solution, such as solar canopies and battery storage, followed by preliminary engineering designs and layouts, as well as information on the qualifying government funding and how it translates into the pricing of the project. Um, Moving along, we would align on the commercial structure, so the financing model that would suit the project best, as well as terms and conditions for our energy services arrangement over the lifetime of the project, followed by typical site development activities that cover the entire life cycle. So all the way from issued for construction drawings or issued for review engineering drawings to permitting, procurement of infrastructure, management of the entire utility connection process, because that's really complex for most parties, and navigating around it in an efficient manner, as well as closeout processes to get the project up and running, followed by our typical operational reporting that you would need in order to meet your reporting requirements, and maintenance activities, preventative and corrective. Next slide, please. So when you work with Oya, the energy transition solution and the journey in order to get to net zero, in order to meet your commitments, becomes a lot easier. We've framed our solutions as such that we provide support from 0 to 1. So essentially, under one roof, you'd find the entire work packages that are located in a project lifecycle. We're able to leverage government incentives on behalf of the project, which is really important for most clients. And these days, when you've got at least 4 to 5 different programs to navigate around to get the full benefit, we're able to do the entire legwork on behalf of you for that. We've flexible financing available, so whether you want a project at zero upfront cost, or you'd like to own the project, we're able to fit that within our engine. We provide you with a multi-pronged approach when it comes to optimizing costs, not only upfront, but also on an ongoing basis. Our being an energy infrastructure developer, we have a strong sense of reliability, and we've got robust maintenance agreements in order to deliver maximum uptime. And we've got a vertically integrated system internally and decades of experience when it comes to effective project development in order to meet your goals. Next slide, please. So we're currently working with different types of customers across the USA in order to meet their energy transition needs. So we would encourage you to connect with us. You could either reach out to us individually. Our contact information is at the end of this slide deck that Janet will be sharing. You can also just reach out to us through the Oya Renewables website by submitting some higher level information, and a member of our team can get in touch with you to kick off the project planning process, and we can go from there.
So thanks, Jonathan and Abdullah. That was excellent. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn it over to questions, and we've had several questions come up in the chat. Jason, thank you. You've been quite active there. So the first one here, I'm going to read it out, and I believe this is going to be mostly for Abdullah. So can you touch on the processes to which businesses would monetize the EV charging stations installed? Is this a charge per kilowatt hour or time value? And would the chargers be backed up if solar power is not available, i.e. Evening time or cloudy days?
For sure. Thanks, Janet. So to answer the first part of this question, when it comes to the different pricing mechanisms that are available for EV charging, mostly the charging networks that you come across today are either pricing their customers on a time-based pricing. So it's essentially $1 per minute kind of a charge, or $1 per hour kind of a charge. Level 2 charging infrastructure that have longer dwell times are typically at a $1 per hour basis, and fast charging infrastructure is typically on $1 per minute basis. In some states, the regulatory agencies are now also allowing a dollar per kilowatt hour pricing. And essentially what that does is that allows clients to not have to change the dollar pricing for different levels of charging speeds that they install. All they have to do is essentially just set up $1 price for a kilowatt hour, and apply that throughout their charging infrastructure. So there's multiple different options, and it's really a function of, you know, how you would like to structure your revenue stream, while keeping in mind the market pricing that is available, so you're also able to stay in step with customers. And we guide our clients on what's the most optimal strategy, as well as giving them control on how to sort of update this pricing over the lifetime of the project.
Thanks, Abdullah. Okay, the next one's for Jonathan. So you're up. This is from Oya. Can you do a high-level cost comparison for each of these 5 configurations, please? So as fast as you possibly can, Jonathan. 1, 2, 3, go.
Yeah, that's kind of tough to do. It highly depends on the region, snow load, wind load, those sort of things. But you know, as I mentioned earlier, usually you're getting your best cost on a per panel basis on the long span and T-shaped structures, Y-shaped structures. Usually the you know, the L-shaped structures or maybe some odd configurations are your you know, your least cost effective or least amount you know, for a bang for your buck kind of scenario. But I would say that, you know, if you have a parking lot somewhere and you're interested, reach out to Abdullah or myself, and you know, we would have to take a closer look.
Thanks, Jonathan. And this one, yeah, it was quick enough. You're concise. I loved it. All right, Amanda. Well, this is from Amanda. I've heard that solar carports are often very costly to the point where there isn't really a payback or cost saving story to be told. So this is like a Mythbusters question, and this is for Abdullah.
Yeah, it's so, you know, when it comes to the cost economics of a solar carport, when it's being talked about specifically, with being integrated with EV chargers, it depends on individual site characteristics. And you know, Amanda, we're happy to sort of touch base with you offline as well to see if this is in relation to a specific site. But essentially, the key considerations that would help you get to that answer most effectively would be, you know, how much space do you have at the site in order to sort of dedicate to the solar carports? What is your optimal requirements around charging speeds? So essentially, how much capacity is it that you're looking for at the site to be supported through this? And then, you know, how big of a charging hub are we talking about? How many EV chargers or EV charging ports are we looking to serve at one point? So these are among the 3 key considerations that would help us get to the economics of, or the feasibility of the integrated solution at a site. I would say that we've come across projects and we've planned projects where, you know, solar canopies have been successful and have sort of been deemed a requirement from certain clients, especially when it comes to, you know, a bundled solution for level 2 charging and solar carports. So they're definitely becoming more and more common these days. So we're happy to give you more information if you have a specific site in mind as well.
Jonathan, do you have anything to add there?
I think Abdullah really hit it on the head there. You know, I think you got to consider it of where the parking lot is, what's the size, what's the cost of electricity in the area, any incentives that can be provided in the local jurisdiction, that sort of thing. And you got to put it all together. You know, besides just the, you know, the dollar and cents, is there a, you know, is a solar carport a statement for the business or you know, wherever this parking lot may be, right? So there's inherent value besides just the dollar and cents of solar and EV charging, maybe it's for, the general feel and direction of the company. Maybe again, it's for shelter purposes, to shelter the spaces as well as humans underneath these parking lots. So, you kind of got to take all factors into one, one scenario and look at it all together.
Yep.
Thanks, Jonathan, and thanks, Abdullah. Okay, so, and I apologize in advance if I pronounce this incorrectly, but Shamsul asks, how does the typically attained power density match with the charging requirement? So, oh, this is a technical question. Okay, for example, how long will it take the footprint of one parking space to charge one typical EV, say if it is an L2 charger?
Yeah, so typically an L2 charger, let's say we're talking about a 7 kilowatt L2 charger. L2 chargers these days, I believe, are also going up to 11 kilowatts, and in some circumstances also going to 19 kilowatts, depending on the electricity utility connection that is available at the site. A typical vehicle would essentially require anywhere from between 3 to 4 hours in order to get to a meaningful range. So let's say they're targeting an 80% battery capacity on the vehicle. That's kind of how long it takes. And then when it comes to the sufficiency of the solar carport that is covering that parking space, that depends on a little bit on those specific site characteristics that Jonathan was talking about, depending on where the geography is and what's the size of that parking space, etc.
Thank you. So our next question is from Jason again. Can this service be tied into rooftop PV solar proposal as well as financing options?
Sorry, Janet, I cut off for a second. Could you please repeat that question?
Oh, for sure. So basically, I think he's asking if we could combine EV charging with rooftop solar, and then would that also, with rooftop solar, work for financing options?
Yep, absolutely. That's the core of our aggregated energy transition solutions. Is we could look at the different technologies that qualify for your site, that are required at your site. We're able to aggregate them into one project and are able to deal with that through one financing solution.
Perfect. And then the last question we have here is from Utsaf, and he asks, or she asks, are there any specific governmental policies which would accelerate adoption of car bike ports in public? For example, subsidizing modeling for solar companies.
Yep. Thanks, Janet. So 100%, there's definitely, there's a lot of policies and bills that are now targeting the acceleration of EV adoption. An example would be subsidizing the make-ready costs when it comes to building an EV charging port. So that would essentially, provide you with incentives to reduce your installation costs to install those EV chargers. More EV chargers on the road would then mean that the EV drivers feel more comfortable. And that takes care of range anxiety. So, that's one avenue of resolving it. And then secondly, there's other policies that are out there, like investment tax credits when it comes to EV chargers, or other similar tax incentives for purchasers of such electric vehicles. So definitely there are a lot of supportive policies, and there's other discretionary grant programs that are out there that are addressing some of the more niche and specific EVs that the question mentioned as well. And we're happy to talk a little bit about them in more detail and sort of provide you with more information on that.
Okay, we've had another few questions pop in. I'm going to go to Jerome's first. So I think this is mostly for Jonathan. In essence, I think what Jerome is asking is that, we understand the efficiency of a panel depends on location. So what is the best output for a panel located above a single space? In other words, so we have a parking space and we want to know how much that parking space the solar canopy is going to produce in power. I don't know if it's best to answer it in terms of parking space or square footage, but I'll leave that to the expert, Jonathan. So if we think of a typical solar carport, it may be in New York
you got to kind of figure out, I get the question. I think you got to kind of figure out, what car you're charging, how long, and how many intervals are there. So if it's a public access charging station, right? How many cars you expect to be charged, let's say per day, for instance? Is it one car per day at the 80% that Abdullah mentions, or is it maybe 5 or 10 cars per day? Because it's a very different type of scenario, obviously. But if we're looking at one car, I believe the expectancy on one car is about 3,000 kilowatt hours in a yearly basis. And then we would have to probably do the math backwards from there. On a, I don't know, a 7 or 10 kW, just kind of quickly getting to it, I guess, you're probably looking at about maybe 20 panels or so. So maybe 2 parking spaces worth of solar panels to charge one charger for a whole year based off of one car's needs. I don't know if that's right, but I'm just doing some rough math in my head.
Yeah, and I think just to add to what Jonathan said, the individual site characteristics as well. We've noticed that changes from state to state as well, and how much exposure you're having. So with those, there are certain locations where one parking space is actually sufficient, to sustain one port that is 7 kilowatts, and others, as Jonathan mentioned, it's more typical you need 2 parking spaces. And there's multiple different ways of leveraging the smart EV charging hardware too, right? Because the value that you get out of connected EV charging hardware is you're able to balance or adapt the EV charging speed. So, you could, for certain points of the day, you could take the EV charging speed down and serve more vehicles. You could augment that with battery storage in order to improve the site output over there as well. So there's multiple different configurations that we can look at by taking into consideration site-specific items.
Great, thank you both. And then we have another question from Oya. This one's for Jonathan. Do polar racking carports qualify for the domestic content requirements, which would qualify the project for additional 10% investment tax credit under the new IRA rules? Oh, this is a fun question.
Yes, absolutely. So we are producing US steel, so we would absolutely qualify for the new IRA rules, increasing for an additional 10% for investment tax credit on your project. So simple answer is yes.
Great. And then I have another question from Jerome. And he asks also, what are the economics of battery-only energy solution and charging to manage peak demand charges?
Yep. So it is a common configuration as well. So battery storage typically you see these days in some of the circumstances could include that you're at a part the EV charging stations are connected to a part of the grid where there's constraints, or another situation where you're actually deploying, let's say, 6 to 8 fast chargers, and you expect at a certain point of the day for those EV chargers to be used in parallel. And in those circumstances, the incremental capital cost that is associated with battery storage provides you with a lot of value, where the reduction in demand charges actually supersedes what the incremental cost of installing these battery storage assets at that site would be. And I think, you know, another sort of value add that Oya brings to the table when it comes to battery storage is, you know, like, how effective is your algorithm in order to, you know, optimize the function of battery storage? Like, how much do you know about the electricity industry, so you're able to take benefits of the electricity market to justify the installation of battery storage at the site. So that's also another factor that adds to the business case of adding battery storage, and they're certainly becoming more common. Some of the, I'd say, the 4 leading charging networks that you see out there in the USA today, you know, be it EVgo or Electrify America, you're seeing battery storage on these stations more and more frequently now.
Okay, so we're fresh out of questions, and we're also out of time. So I would welcome anybody, if you have a question, if you wake up at midnight and you have a question, maybe don't phone us, but write us an email or phone us during the day with any of your questions. All of our contact information is there on the screen. Please reach out, don't hesitate. And thank you again for your time. And thank you for our excellent speakers for sharing all their knowledge on the topic. And have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Janet. Thanks, Jonathan.